So Lisa Michelle Smith is the founder, head trainer, and coach of the Coaching Center for Mind Training and Success. She is certified as a master hypnotherapist, EFT practitioner, NLP practitioner, and positive intelligence coach. For nearly 30 years, Lisa has helped individuals and organizations use and learn neuroscience-based techniques for quicker, sustainable behavior change without relying on willpower. Her company has won awards as Best Weight Loss Center and other categories for Virginia Beach for 12 years and the Virginia Media Best of Hampton Roads contest, and 4 times in the Best of Coastal Virginia contest with Cobra Magazine. Lisa's talk today is entitled A Quick Technique to Curb Emotional Eating and Stop Feeling Out of Control. If you've ever noticed yourself reaching for food when stressed, bored, or emotions hit, you're not alone. In this fast-paced session, master hypnotherapist and EFT practitioner Lisa Michelle Smith reveals the psychological drivers behind emotional eating and why traditional discipline often fails. She'll also teach you a simple technique you can use anywhere, anytime to immediately interrupt eating impulses and feel back in charge. Let's welcome Lisa Smith. We're going to do our Toastmaster pass-off. Thank you.
All right, so by show of hands, how many of you related to that experience of thinking about wanting to eat, reaching for food, even though you know you're not hungry? And maybe it was because you were feeling stressed, or you were bored, or you were feeling overwhelmed, or angry, or unappreciated, or maybe even you're just celebrating something. So the reaching for it, you find yourself kind of being in autopilot. Oftentimes, I have clients who say that like they have the food in their hand or in their mouth before they even realized what they were doing. So again, the brain's constantly going into autopilot. Once we have these programs set up, it starts to run it. And then how many of you, after you ate the food, did the V8 moment? Like, ugh, what did I do? Or why did I do that? Or maybe even in the middle of it, you were saying, I shouldn't be doing this. I should stop. I should have an apple instead of this donut. But you still did it anyway. And then maybe afterwards, you were frustrated with yourself, right? Or you felt guilty, or you were criticizing yourself, or maybe you had like some kind of physical unpleasant result because of, that. Maybe you had a food that you really shouldn't be eating, but you did anyway. So when this is when you're experiencing this kind of thing, it's not because you lack discipline. You have to mention that. And it's not because there's something wrong with you or broken. You just got some programs running, and you're trying to fix an emotional issue with a physical action or a physical resource, which oftentimes for people is food. Now, for some people, it could be alcohol, it could be a cigarette, it could be, going and shopping, it could be, drugs. But all these are a way, a coping mechanism that we learned somewhere, and that, worked for us. Once we do that and we get that, positive feeling or that dopamine hit, then the brain wants to do it again, right? It learns, oh, that helped me to feel good, even though it might have only lasted a short period of time. And then you feel the bad feeling again, right? And then you go to your coping mechanism, and then it becomes this cycle. So once we create the pattern, and every time we continue to do it, it reinforces the pattern. And then we start to go into autopilot with the behavior. But the thing to recognize is that this is not a willpower problem. This is a pattern problem. This is a programming problem. And it can be changed. So there's something called the stimulus response pattern. So there's a stimulus that happens, and sometimes it can be an emotion, and your brain kicks into autopilot and it says, what helps me to shift out of that negative emotional state and into a more positive or desired one? Because we're constantly trying to move out of pain and into pleasure. And so the brain goes, oh, it's this thing, like, having something to eat. And so it goes into that autopilot response. What you want to be able to do to break this is have something in between. That gap in between stimulus and response is called, what do you think? Pause. It's a pause, and in the pause you have what?
That's clarity almost.
You have choice. The power to choose is the most powerful ability that we have. Instead of going into autopilot, because we're not in choice mode, we're reactionary. But if we find a way to have that pause in between the stimulus before we go into the autopilot response that we're not happy with the outcomes from, we need to learn how to create that pause. And so, there's been a lot of talk about the nervous system tonight, and it's learning how to regulate that fight or flight mechanism that overactivates that nervous system and oftentimes triggers us into these patterns. So that's where EFT comes in, emotional freedom techniques. It's also known as tapping, because more often than not, you are stimulating these acupressure points on the body through tapping on them. Now you can tap, you can rub, you can do a pulsing pressure, or in acupuncture, stick a needle in it. And what it does is it disrupts the stuck energy within the body, the brain, the nervous system. It helps to turn off the fight or flight mechanism in the hindbrain, and it starts to activate the forebrain, the prefrontal cortex, where choice lives. Amygdala is reactionary autopilot, conditioned responses, safety, and prefrontal cortex is choice, creativity, logical, assessment, evaluation, and the positive emotional states and release of positive chemicals like endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. So the simple stimulation of these particular trigger points called meridian points have a direct impact on calming the amygdala, activating the prefrontal cortex, and creating that pause between stimulus and response. So if you can at least start to recognize when you're in that pattern mode or when it's starting, and create an interruption of the pattern by doing something like the EFT, it helps to regulate you, it helps to move you out of that negative emotional state, and you can give yourself what you're looking for in that moment, a shift out of the negative state into a more neutral or positive one, without something that has the lose at the other side of it. So instead of a win-lose resource or action, you have a win-win, right? Did you ever divert from some of those negative thoughts by going and exercising? Anybody ever done that? Or maybe having a healthy food instead of an unhealthy one, or maybe drinking some water, or maybe calling a friend or playing a game or something like that. Did you ever finish that exercise or the talking to the friend or the choosing the healthier food and then go, what was I thinking? Why did I exercise? Why did I choose the healthier food? No, you don't get that yay moment. So we want the win-win resources and response. And again, this isn't about willpower. This is about learning how to reprogram that stimulus response for you. And after you've done it enough times in the new way, guess what? You've got a pattern, but it's a pattern that creates a positive end result instead of the negative. So I could explain much more about how the EFT works within the system, but that's enough to kind of give you an idea. What I want to do is allow you to have an experience with EFT. Now, who has done tapping before? If at least a few of you have. Okay. So I'm going to guide you through it, and there's the basic points that we're going to be, most of the time that we're working with, and I'm going to work with tonight, is right here on the side of the hand called a karate chop point. So if you hit something, we're giving it a karate chop, we hit here. And then we've got the top of the head right here in the center of the head. And then we've got eyebrow point. Now some of the points, you've got a right side and a left side. They're bilateral, and some are in the center of the body. So the top of the head is the center of the body. And then we've got eyebrow point. So between the bridge of the nose and the beginning of your eyebrow on the right side and the eyebrow on the left side is where your eyebrow meridian point or inside meridian point is. So that is where you would stimulate with 1 or 2 fingers by tapping. And then we've got the side of the eye out here, past the temples. And then you've got under the eye, and then you've got under the nose, under the lip. It's also referred to sometimes as chin point, but it's not on the chin. It's in this little divot above the chin, below the lip. The next point is the collarbone point, which is found by gliding your fingers down the collarbone towards that hollow of your neck. And right before you get to the hollow on either side, you'll feel a protruding bone. Okay. You can see them pretty clearly on me. And you're going to go just below the bone. So you'll have a diagram that I'll give you access to. It looks like this, and it shows you the dots, the meridian point. So it's just below the collarbone. Right there is your collarbone point. And then you've got underarm, which is about 4 inches below your armpit. For women, it's right where the side of your bra strap is. And there's 2 ways you can do it if you're doing the bilateral tapping, which is what we call the monkey, like this, or like this, or the hug, and you cross your arms over and you tap like this. Now this is harder if you've got a larger chest. So monkey or the hug. And then we've got the wrist point, where the wrists bend forward, where you take your pulse. That's where you're going to tap. And then I end back at the top of the head to sort of close the circuit off, because the karate chop does something a little bit different than the rest of the points. So those are the points. And what I want you to do as I guide you through this process is just mirror me. Just do what I do and say what I'm saying. It's more powerful if we say the statements out loud, and there's some ways you can do tapping that where you don't have to say anything. You can do a little bit more discreetly when you're out in public, for example. But with this one, I'm going to teach you what we call the basic technique in using the statements. So what we're going to start with is thinking about a food that you have a really, really strong pull towards, but it's not healthy. You eat it too much, or you feel like you can't stop when you start eating it. You just like till the whole cookie sleeve is gone, or whatever. So think about a problematic food for you that you just feel sometimes you don't have control over. And close your eyes to really get back in touch with what that food is like for you, what it looks like, what it feels like in your mouth, what it tastes like in your mouth, the good feelings that you have when you're consuming it. Maybe it's something sugary, maybe it's something starchy, or something salty or crunchy. And as you're tuning into that food and recalling that urge, that pull, that desire, try to access the intensity level of the desire for that food right now in this moment. Sometimes when I do this, I actually have people bring the food in, and so it's really present with them. They can smell it, they can look right at it instead of using their memories. But right now, try to tap into that urge or that compulsion for that food, and give it a rating of 0 to 10 of how strong it feels, that intensity level of desire for that food. 10 being extreme, 0 not there at all. All right. Now, keeping your eyes closed so that you can really tune into that, I'm going to describe the tapping points because I went through that, so you know where to go when I describe it. Tune into that intensity rating, and then go to your karate chop point and start to tap the side of that hand with the 2 karate chop points together. And then just repeat after me. Even though I have a strong desire for, and then name what the food is. I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept this feeling. Even though I have this strong desire for, say what it is. I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself anyway. Even though I have this strong desire for, and I really want to have it. It tastes so good. It makes me feel better. I'm open to releasing the pull it has on me. And the negative impact from it. Top of the head. This urge for, name the food. Okay, then go to the eyebrow point. This urge for, say the food. Side of the eyes. This urge for, side under the eyes. This urge for, say the food. Under the nose. This urge for, say the food. Sometimes you might notice yourself yawning. That's good. That means you're releasing some of that emotion. Under the lip. This urge for, say the food. Collarbone. This urge for. Under the arms. You can even say this desire for. Wrist points. This desire for, say the. And then top of the head. This desire for. All right, then you stop there, you take a deep breath, and you let it go. Now think about that food again, and tune into how strong you feel pulled towards it now, how strong that urge is now. And give it that rating of 0 to 10. Oh, does anybody raise your hand if it's gone down at least a point? Okay, great. 2 points? All right. More than 2. Okay, awesome. So that's just one round of tapping. The goal is to get under a 5, right? The lower the number you have, the less of that pull, that urgency, that because when we have like a really mild emotion about something versus a strong emotion, which one wins out? Strong, right? So the stronger it is, the more compelling it feels. If it's down below a 5, it's not so. It's like, I kind of want it, but I don't feel like, oh my God, I have to have it. So the goal is to, continue the tapping rounds. You would just start at the karate chop again. If you're not, under a 5, and then just repeat the same thing. Even though I have this desire for blank, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. There's some variations that I kind of use as well. You can do some variations to that. But that's the basic technique with it. Just keep tapping the rounds as long as you're noticing a positive impact after each round. Now there's some other things you can do if you're doing that and it gets stuck in a number and you do a few rounds, it doesn't seem to go lower, or you do a few rounds and it's not moving at all. There's some things you can do to adjust within the technique to start to notice some release of that. We're not stuffing the emotion, we're recognizing and acknowledging it and the desire, but we're helping to release the pent energy of it. Now, another thing that you can do is tap on the emotion itself. So even though I'm feeling overwhelmed and I want to eat chocolate, okay, even though I want chocolate because I'm feeling overwhelmed, I fully and completely forget, love, and accept myself anyway. And then this urge for chocolate because I'm overwhelmed, or this feeling of overwhelmed, feeling of overwhelmed, feeling of overwhelmed. So sometimes going after the emotion, you'll have better results than after the resource that's trying to help you deal with the emotional trigger. Okay, so it's a very brief example of the EFT practice. There's so much more that you can do with it and use it. And after a while, you can actually deactivate that programming, so you don't even have to find yourself, being pulled and having to do the tapping. You just don't have the same pull anymore. You can look at chocolate, which once used to be like, chocolate, and you're like, Jello, it's like neutral, like Jello. And you just, you can take it or leave it, or you have it, but you're like, oh, just have a little bit and I'm fully satisfied, I don't need any more. Okay. So I encourage you to look into EFT more. There's so much that you can do with it. On the tables there, you'll see there's a slip that you can fill out. You can check off that you would like the toolkit that I have for teaching you some of the basics of EFT. You'll get the little chart like this, and more about the different uses of it, and just get a couple of lessons of using the EFT so you can practice it yourself. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always reach out to me to learn a little bit more. There's tons of videos on YouTube that you can explore. Sometimes just doing the YouTube videos is enough to help you in that moment. And if you feel like you get stuck or you have something a little bit more intense that having a practitioner work through with you is going to make a bigger difference, then there's lots of different ways that I can work with people. And I've got a free session tonight that you could win to do an EFT session with me for a particular type of behavior or situation that you're trying to shift. Any quick questions before we start to wrap up? And we'll let you kind of fill out your forms, talk with the speakers, and then we'll do the, and please have some more food. And then we'll do the drawing in a few minutes. So any questions?
If you filled out your form completely, come get another raffle ticket.
Do you want to do a raffle?
We can't do that.
Yeah.
My ADD,
I
totally get it, and then I write it.
Yeah, well, that's why they give you time before and after, Steve.
Also, thank you so much. I'm gonna be following up
Thanks for coming. Safe travels back to Canada.
Thank you.